Good afternoon. I'm thrilled that I get this opportunity to share with you some of the incredible customer stories and really focusing in on how to maximize your investment in Webflow. A lot of the content you've heard so far is really focusing on the product and the features and the workflows. So you're going to hear a little bit about that today, but you're also going to hear about how we work strategically with customers to think about the broader business goals and making sure that you're not just having an incredible site, but a site that powers what your business needs from you. Before we get into that, some quick introductions. My name is Miguel, or Miguel, depending on your accent preference. I'm the Director of Customer Success at Webflow, and I've been here almost 2 years. And fun fact about myself, in line with the Build Together symphony theme, is that I played tenor sax when I was in high school. And if anyone knows about saxophones, that's the larger, heavier saxophone. And I was assigned the tenor sax because I was the tallest kid in my class, and the music instructor thought he's the least likely to drop it and bend it. So I cannot play a good tune, but that's my fun fact.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey Quaddy. I am a Senior Customer Success Manager on Miguel's team. I have been at Webflow for about 2.5 years, but in the customer success space for over 10. And my fun fact, along with the band fact of Miguel's, I too played band. I did not want to, however. My mother forced me, and to make sure that I only had to do it 1 year, I picked the absolute hardest instrument that I knew I would fail at, and that is the oboe. And I made it through half of a rehearsal, and the band instructor said, go to choir. So it worked.
Needless to say, neither Kelsey or I will be on stage next year doing the band symphony for the opening keynote. All right, this is one of my favorite stats. Over 1,000 organizations choose Webflow Enterprise when evaluating where to build and host their most important web properties. And the focus of today's talk is to tell you a little bit about why so many organizations choose Webflow Enterprise for their partnership and for their scale. 3 main reasons that we look at in categories. We think about speed, efficiency, and we think about incremental revenue. But those are also big concepts that we talk about at the product level. But how we accomplish that at the account team level is by partnering strategically with you to make sure that we're hitting your business goals. And when we say account team, it's really 2 main stakeholder groups. The first is your customer success manager, which, depending on what experience you have with other vendors and partners and customers, have very different roles. At Webflow, the customer success manager is in charge with helping you achieve your business goals and maximizing your investment. That's it. It's a very broad, but also very specific goal about how we help you be successful. The other key component of your account team when you're a Webflow Enterprise customer is your technical architect. These provide technical leadership, guidance, and expertise to customers, ultimately to make sure that you build successful implementations and solutions that scale. Together, these account teams enables customers to launch a lot faster, build and collaborate efficiently, and drive down costs, and ultimately drive revenue. So some of the metrics that we're going to share today is to illustrate our points is from the Forrester Total Economic Impact Report of 2024. This was just published a few weeks ago, actually, and has some really powerful stories about how we work with customers to drive value. Now, for anyone who isn't aware of Forrester, Forrester is a leading research and market group that helps customers and technology companies do in-depth analysis of their markets, of their opportunities, and of their products. So I'm excited to share some of those today. When you hear the actual metrics that we'll share, the way Forrester does this is they did 5 in-depth interviews with customers from different scale and different use cases. And to give you one analysis, they created a composite sort of no-name organization. This organization roughly has about $2 billion in revenue, has about 10 Webflow users, 1 developer, 3 designers, and about 6 content owners. So it's trying to give a picture of a typical average Webflow implementation with a medium-sized to large organization. And lastly, it's also assuming that the customers also work with a partner to help speed up their development.
All right. So to start, we talked about speed, efficiency, revenue. We'll start with speed and how our customers get to market faster. So 94%, big number, big percentage. That is from the Forrester Composite Organization, showing a 94% faster time to market for the Webflow enterprise customer. Before we talk about that number, how big it is, how great it is, what are some of the problems we had customers come to us to solve and to get to that speed to market? So you'll see 4 enterprise customers on the screen here. Some of the themes that we saw from them when they came over to us, when they said, hey, we need to leave that platform, we need to come to Webflow. They had siloed systems, they had disorganized teams. They weren't able to move quickly. Their dev resources were holding marketing teams back. So when we talk to them about faster time to market, yes, it means supercharging your development workflows. 1 click to publish, very powerful, but just the tip of the iceberg. So some of the things we look at when we're thinking about faster time to market are those enterprise workflows, those custom permissions, and the Webflow best practices that your CSM and your TA work with you on to make sure you're hitting those go-to-market timelines. Let's zero in on an enterprise customer. Orange Theory Fitness. So to start us off, I want to start with a really powerful quote from Orange Theory's Chief Information Officer, Malcolm Green. And for those who may not know or who avoid HIT classes like I do, Orange Theory Fitness is a boutique fitness franchise. They have over 1,500 locations worldwide. So what Malcolm told us was the Webflow account team is a game changer. They give strategic recommendations on how to optimize our website and truly feel like an extension of our team. It's been night and day compared to deployments with other vendors where we are completely on our own. So how did we solve that with them? When we think about solving for speed and getting our customers to market quicker, there are 3 things we work with them on as an account team, as their CSM and as their TA. Nailing the implementation, aligning stakeholders, and the Webflow partner ecosystem. For Orange Theory in particular, we're going to look at the implementation and the partner. So with Orange Theory, they worked with the fabulous Webflow partner Outliant. And when they came to us, there was a really big goal. They came to us about 2 years ago in October, and they wanted to be live on their new site by January. As most of us know, January, everyone sets their new goals, they want to get in the gym. Orange Theory wanted to be ready for that with their signups, being able to book classes, start memberships. It was a lot of work. They had really, really tight timelines, but to help them hit that, 1, they had their partner knew Webflow, their partner knew Webflow best practices, and their partner was able to consult and get guidance from their TA at such a high level, they were able to push those deadlines. With nailing implementation, not only did Orange Theory's customer success manager work with the Orange Theory team on onboarding, they also worked with Outliant. One thing about having an account team as a Webflow enterprise customer, we partner with your partner the way we partner with you. So we did our onboarding enablement for general courses. We also ran specialized onboarding courses with the Orange Theory and Outliant teams to directly hit upon the areas they needed to focus on when building. In doing that, we were able to help them launch not just a site that was typical or the same as the platform they came from, but actually better in terms of the metrics and signups they had. So with speed, we also have efficiency. And for efficiency, you need to be able to design without compromise and collaborate in efficient ways. Back to our composite organization, 80% efficiency gains were seen in development cycles. There are some ways that we do that here. 2 on the screen, publishing and content editing. We think about publishing and content editing workflows as ways to not only make quick edits and corrections, but more so on that deeper level with tools. Tools that you heard about yesterday, tools like Page Builder, shared libraries, page branching, design approvals, and so on. Now, many people in this room probably know the names of those tools. One thing that happens with a CSM and a TA is actually digging into how to use those tools, not just sort of on the face level, but how they work with your actual team. We take a look at how you collaborate among your marketing team, your engineering team, your dev team, your partners. Who needs to sit in what role? Who needs design approval for certain parts of your website? What needs to be looked at even deeper? So we take those tools, we make sure that they're used not just in Webflow best practices, but Webflow best practices for you. So on the screen, you will see 4 lovely enterprise customers, much like we saw with speed. they all have some things that weren't working for them before they came to Webflow. Very common themes. Things like decentralized teams, a bloated tech stack, broken workflows, and long timelines. So sometimes a bit in the same with speed. If we click in, Spin Master, enterprise customer, they are, you'll recognize maybe if you have children or nieces and nephews like me, Paw Patrol on the screen. So they have toys, games, entertainment, digital games. I also think the Rubik's Cube was them. So, but they have 38 internal teams for their different categories that all have to make sure they are building on that same brand, telling the same brand story, while also giving that unique look into that brand. So, how did Spin Master do that? They worked with their dedicated account team to select the appropriate CSS framework and build a design system that would help their site scale. Think, again, 38 different brands, different teams that all needed to look alike, but scale quickly, efficiently. So they worked with their team to do that, to help their site scale and allow for tighter collaboration across all product and marketing teams. So that tight partnership was integral to ensure that the entire Spin Master team felt supported as they got up to speed on Webflow. So, as we mentioned, the CSS framework, we actually have a wonderful quote from Chris Law, who's the Director of Customer Experience at Spin Master, and he said, having such an active Webflow CSM and TA on our side to help justify the business value has been super valuable. He can now focus on optimizing their sites and elevating how they build things together. So they got to focus on the things that really matter, not that really initial setup, figuring out what works. We helped them get there faster. Digging into the how a bit there. So we talked about onboarding with speed. There's also a piece of onboarding with efficiency. So with onboarding and enablement, when you start with your dedicated account team as a Webflow enterprise customer, you start on that kickoff call by really understanding those success metrics and those success goals. We then send you into your enablement with those in mind. We look at it in 4 ways with sort of the general initial Webflow setup, and then we dig in on meetings past then with your TA, looking at your systems, doing that technical planning, having the launch strategy, making sure that as you move through from pre-launch to launch to post-launch, that all of that solutions architecture support is there for you. And then of course we touched on publishing workflows to start this section. Design approvals, the site activity log, making sure there's security in place that helps you move quickly, helps you work efficiently, but also make sure that we're not doing anything to compromise the site.
My favorite topic. One of the first CFOs I ever worked for said to try and make it simple for us, we either save customers money or we make them money. And I'm going to ask you to go on a little journey with me on this next story about how Webflow actually helps you do both. 332% return on investment analysis over 3 years. That's the Forrester input data that gives you a benchmark of using these inputs and the experiences and interviews with customers, the average ROI expected over 3 years. Now, this same study, and we'll link the resources for Forrester in resources that we send after this conference as well, showed that typical payback for a Webflow investment happens in the first 6 months of your actual realization of launching your site and getting live. But what does that actually mean in dollars and in information? So it's really across 3 categories. We look at decreasing costs, we look at reallocating resources, and we drive incremental revenue. On the decreasing cost part, one of the early wins is, of course, making and simplifying your tech stack. So end of life for legacy systems, consolidating things that are repetitive or redundant that you don't need anymore, thanks to Webflow. It also has a lot to do with reallocating resources. I'll give you a quick example from NERSA, which we quote from time to time because of their incredible achievements on performance with their CMS. So when NERSA started as a customer, they had 8 full-time developers, and 3 of those developers were focused on helping maintain the site, and the other 5 were in their native app and in their experience to get their customers. So after moving to Webflow, they now have those, well, now they have more than 8, but that entire set of resources will be able to focus on the core app, the core mission of the company, and freed up that resources, that time, and that money to be able to actually put it in where they felt they can make the most benefit of that engineering time. Another part of reallocating resources, which marketers will both love and also appreciate the annoyance of, is that now I've had marketing teams tell me I used to run one campaign a month because of the resource constraints. Now with Webflow, I can do one a week. But that doesn't mean that their budgets got bigger, that doesn't mean they got a raise, that just means they're 4 times more effective at running their campaigns. So that means not only am I reallocating engineering resources, but I'm also able to empower my marketers to do a lot more and spend a lot less time actually building and more time executing and learning from customers. That last piece about driving incremental revenue. So 0.5% aggregate incremental revenue does not feel like a big number. I will remind you that the Forrester Composite Organization is a $2 billion a year revenue organization. So 0.5% incremental revenue is actually about $3 million in incremental revenue that you can typically see over the course of this 3-year partnership. The increased traffic, conversions, and optimization is one of the most direct ways that we see, not just with performance, but an actual behavior of customers once you have a site that's more tailored, that's more vibrant, and that's actually consistent with the brand that you want to deliver. All right, so there's four incredible companies up here. I'll tell you a quick story about Lattice. So Lattice was actually a very early Webflow enterprise customer, and they had incredible growth and felt like they needed to move faster than Webflow was moving. So they actually left Webflow Enterprise, and they went out and tested other CMS and composable assets, and then about a year later they came back and realized that our speed to market with what we were delivering and what we can actually move had actually caught up to what they needed, and they're now, again, a Webflow Enterprise customer, and feel like they are empowering their teams to do more for their customers and honestly deliver the kind of programs and vibrant engagement that their team expects, given the opportunity that they have had in the market. Dormakaba, we've called out that example a couple times, and actually JJ from Dormakaba spoke at our conference last year. They were investing over $500,000 maintaining and launching their sites and properties, leaving almost zero budget to actually promote them and to actually understand what behavior was actually coming across. So if you're spending all that time and energy just going live, you're on to the next thing before you're really understanding the impact of what you're doing and how to quantify that to the business. Now let me tell you about Waste Connections, one of my absolute favorite stories from this last year. So Waste Connections is one of the largest trash and recycling conglomerates in the world. And they are, if you think about the landscape of businesses, they are a house of brands. So they acquire and build brands all across North America to deliver these services. And what they found was that they needed to get out of their old hard-coded systems and legacy sites because they were missing opportunity. They felt like the market was there and that their acquisition strategy was working, but they weren't seeing the lift that they expected given all the markets that they were in. What happened after they moved to Webflow? 57% increase in leads. This started to happen the first month after they moved to Webflow, and one of my favorite quotes from Eric, the CIO, was that we had so many leads now with more streamlined content, easier to find, clear call actions on our pages, that they actually did not have the capacity to service the leads. Like, man, is that a problem sales teams want to have. They had too many leads to actually service correctly, and they had to go and invest in sales to be able to actually funnel them. That led to, in the first 6 months, a 19% increase. 19% increase in the first 6 months after launching Webflow. And this next part is one of my favorite. 6% decrease in call volume. Now, why did this happen? They have now over 40 sites in Webflow. And what had happened is, as they accumulated all these legacy sites and companies, the content wasn't being archived, it wasn't being cleaned, and so it was just sitting there, sometimes 5, 10-year-old content, making it very confusing for the experience of customers and making it very difficult for Waste Connections to understand who they actually needed to serve. So by streamlining and using our CMS to get rid of old content, keep new content fresh and relevant, and put it in the right place, they were actually able to decrease the volume of support calls by 6%, which for them was 350,000 calls in the first 6 months. Now, if anybody has any experience with call centers, the average call, if you are offshoring, is about $2 to $4 a call. If If you're nearshoring or in North America, that goes to $6, $8, and sometimes $10 a call. So if you just take the average of that range, we're talking about a $2 million savings in time, people, and resources that you are no longer, that Waste Connection no longer has to pay to be able to service their customers. This is a massive benefit that wasn't even on the initial radar of how we were going to help Waste Connections. And as if this wasn't cool enough, because saving $2 million is really cool, the actual CSAT, so the satisfaction of the customer support reps, went up by 20%. So their CSR reps are staying in seat longer, they are happier and more engaged, and they, in part, credit Webflow for giving them this ability to have them actually focus on helping customers. Because there's nothing more frustrating to a customer support rep than helping a customer where the answer is already really clear, it's really easy, it's something that you could have self-served, or that you would have even preferred to self-serve. So when we look at the top line metrics, and if we were just focused on the site, we would have seen the conversions, we would have seen the traffic, we would have seen the revenue. But when we actually peel back all the different pieces and groups that rely on the content and the experiences of the website, you get that full picture, where we now have a happier support rep because the marketing team chose Webflow. All right, so the Waste Connection stories is amazing, but when we think about, in general, decreasing costs and increasing revenue for our customers, there's these three main things we focus on. The first one is KPIs. And I do not mean just for the site. It's super important that we have deeper conversations about what you're trying to do as a business. And I'll give you a couple examples of why that's important. We often get a very excited customer who wants to launch right away with a deadline and something that's very important to the business, and we want to help them do that. The problem, if that's how we start, is that we lose the opportunity to have the business conversation. Because as we've talked about with the trends in marketing and the needs, beautiful performance sites aren't good enough anymore. They have to be tied to the business goals, and they have to be proven to be aligned to what the business needs from that team. So starting with KPIs, not just what you want for the site, what is your business trying to get from this asset, and how can we take a holistic view of this to give you recommendations and approaches that are actually going to make you leverage this to the best of your ability. The second is integrations. CRM is table stakes, but understanding your back-end systems and what of the 5,000 MarTech tools you have you're actually dependent on makes all the difference. Another quick example here, also from Waste Connections. They had an analytics group that would take website data and composite it over the month, give a readout to the team, here's your performance, here's your leads. The problem with that is that every time you deliver a monthly report, it's immediately 30 days out of date when you're trying to execute. So what we were able to do, understanding the integrations that they had, was worked with them so that their agency could get real-time data from our Webflow sites, align it to their CRM, and be able to produce weekly and sometimes daily reports of how those sites were performing. And I was on site, luckily, with them in Houston a few months ago, and Eric, the CIO, said that was one of the biggest shifts in the business when they were able to give them actionable data of their sites live now in a time zone, in a time loop that they could execute that week and see results and be able to give that back to the business. Lastly is multiple use cases. Kind of going back to the site, if you come to us and you say, I just need this because I have this big event and I have to get as many eyeballs on this as possible, that's fine, and we can help you do that. But we're missing the opportunity to think about the bigger picture, which is, okay, once we have the eyeballs on there, what do we actually want them to do, and how are we going to show that this site is actually creating and fostering the behavior that we want? So thankfully, we had this bigger picture with several of our enterprise customers, including Waste Connections, about how do we make this not just engaging, robust with content, but actually aligned to the way that the business needs to grow. And that's what leads to some of those impressive sales numbers. Okay, if I had to leave you with the three things to think about how you maximize your investment long-term with Webflow, these are where I would anchor. The first is business oversight. Don't get me wrong, we need all of your requirements for your site, and we're going to help you build it to the best of that Webflow can do. But we need to understand and help you understand what your business is requiring and needing from these initiatives so that we can have the view and give you the opportunity to show up as that hero. I didn't just bring in the site because my job is easier. I brought in Webflow because all of our jobs are now easier, and we're all going to be more successful together. The second is aligning stakeholders. I will be honest with this group because it's being recorded. One of the things I hear the most of is actually it's not difficult to get that one person who believes in Webflow who wants to give us a try and bring it in. What's hard is then you have sometimes 38 brands like Spin Master, or you have 38 people in your company who touch some part of the website that you now have to go and convince them that why Webflow is good, why you have to use it. And I've heard everything from an 80-page document to try and train people on Webflow that they build themselves. People are making custom videos and custom decks. It is very hard and manual right now. So the more you lean in and talk to us about what stakeholders you need, let us make it a little less scary for that content marketer. Let us help you bring those devs in a way that they're going to feel comfortable in the Webflow environment and not feel like this isn't my thing and I want to do my own development elsewhere. And then lastly, our partner ecosystem. We believe to our core that development superpowers belong in everybody's hands. And we want our in-house teams and everyone at your company feeling like they can learn and do anything they want in Webflow. However, it would be a mistake to think that not leveraging the partner ecosystem is an incredible tool and asset for this community and users of Webflow. And I'll give you one example. Last year, we launched localization. As with every big product launch, we make sure that our partners are the very first to get certified and trained in these new tools. So we had customers with established partnership relationships that within 1 week of us activating localization had localized pages in 10 or more countries 5 business days after this was launched. That kind of speed is almost impossible to get unless you have the option of, well, what does it mean to our business to have 10 sites localized next week versus 3 months from now or 2 months from now, or how I can then prioritize it in my workflow to get it live. And so this last point isn't to say everyone has to have a partner. Everyone needs to be aware of our partner ecosystem and the power it brings. Because even being aware of them and having those few connections will give you that idea when you have that inflection point, when you have that campaign that all of a sudden felt impossible. Ask us about our partners, because I bet you with them, we can come up with something that actually gets you what you need in a way that makes you incredibly successful. Thank you. I think we have about 7 or 8 minutes for any questions. So if anyone has a question about anything we've shared or about how to work with any of the stakeholders in our account team, we'd love to answer them.
Hi, great talk. Just a quick question. So, like during the onboarding process with an enterprise client, is there some type of, let's say, education or something for them to get familiar with the Webflow environment? And if it is does this fall like in the hands of the Webflow partner, or does Webflow have some type of program for this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So anyone who signs up for an enterprise plan gets access to our human-led onboarding series. These are run twice daily, Monday through Thursday, and they're built that way so that when you get new team members or when hey, it's been a month since I worked in the CMS, let me go get a refresher, it's really easy to drop in. It's an hour long, it's human-led, you're able to ask questions and get follow-ups. So that's the basic standard. But what we try and do with every single customer is understand what's your level of comfort with tools like this, and then come up with a very specific plan. So Kelsey mentioned Orange Theory Fitness. Like they actually had 20 people that they wanted to onboard. And we're like, well, that might be better in person. So we actually flew out and met with them and had a training and got them really comfortable and actually working in Webflow to get them up to speed. But to your point about partners, we actually also have a plan with them so that depending on who's the best fit for what they need, the partner might lead some education part, or Webflow will do it. But the key is meeting the customer where they are. If they have people that need a lot more intervention, not only will we give access to the onboarding sessions, but we'll create really specific and tailored down to the workflow so that you can have an easier time of bringing in those people who are like, I don't have time to learn a tool, because like nobody has time to learn a tool. But here's the reason why your workflow and Webflow is going to be super powerful, and this is how we're going to build it.
Just to add on to that just a little bit. So in terms of the onboarding, what I do as a customer success manager is get the enterprise customer into the onboarding. And when they're working with a partner, what we make sure to do on the kickoff call is understand, okay, we're going to get you this one-on-one level with our onboarding team. And then we work with the partner to make sure that we align when that happens with when the partner is then ready to take the enterprise customer through their actual site and say, okay, you learned these basics from the enablement manager. Now let's apply those basics to the specific ecosystem of your site in Designer and make sure you understand how that actually looks in practice.
So this is a question around pricing, I guess. If I have a fair understanding as an agency, as a partner type thing, that enterprise is what I need for a particular project, a particular client. I just need the features. I don't need all the onboarding, all the extra hand-holding, all the extra services. Is it the same thing? Is it the same package? Or that's like a core, cheaper version, and what you're describing here is like a bells and whistles enhanced package?
Yeah, great question. So if you are a Webflow enterprise customer, every enterprise customer gets a customer success manager. And to go back to how we define it at Webflow, those people are in charge of you hitting your business goals and maximizing your investment. So we want every enterprise customer to have that person. That person is a business expert at leveraging Webflow and helping you see the fuller picture of how to help your customer. The technical architect role that we mentioned a few times, that is part of what we call our Gold Plus SLA. So that does have a percentage impact on the price of your enterprise plan. The way I pitch it to customers, because we never want to force a customer to accept something that they feels like they don't need, is that for the cost of a percentage piece of your subscription, you're getting one of the foremost experts in Webflow to help you. Honestly, it's not necessarily to build that first site, it's so that you build it in a way that you're not rebuilding it 6 months later or having to redo your design class system. I can't tell you how many times we've heard, even from people who know Webflow, who built a site and then turned it over, and then another partner got involved, I'm just gonna redo this. Like, there's a lot of lost energy, effort, and really good content that gets in the way of, I think, the scalable part of this. And so we would, we would never force anyone to have a technical architect, but we do recommend it, especially for the complex issues that you might have. And again, if you have many systems, if you're thinking about different brands, it really helps avoid some of the pitfalls. And I think even the most advanced Webflow users won't have always the inside track of how we're building. And we've had situations where, like, I've been building Webflow for 5 years, I don't need a CSM, I don't need a TA, I know what I'm doing, just give me the things to do it. And when that's happened, sometimes they've built something and then 2 months later, we come up with component variables. Or 1 month later, we come up with localization. And they just built 10 sites and translated them manually, when if they had talked to us and told us what they needed, we would have said, okay, maybe you have to wait a month, or maybe if it's so urgent, we'll just give you access early. But that doesn't exist if you don't have the conversation with us. And so it's less about us, like, you have to have this, you have to have that. It's more like we really want everyone to understand the benefits. And then when you have those builds, share those priorities, because we promise you we can save you headaches. Even if you feel like I can get this first site, it's like you want that customer to come back and have that long-term relationship. And we're really well equipped to help you do that.
Just on that, has there been a situation where through that discovery period, the particular customer has a requirement that might not even be on your roadmap, but it's a quick win? Have you gone to your engineering to say, okay, can we just throw
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Our technical architects are some of the best connected to our products, and so we'll say our customers are asking for this. This is a big issue, And I think they are accounting for almost 60% of all of our product gap submissions. It comes directly from customers. So we find some quick wins, and we also find some really creative workarounds because they get that full view of they're not just working with this enterprise customer, they're working with all of them, and they pool that information.
Do you have any industries or companies where you have seen that Webflow Enterprise might not be a fit right now because of some of the security backend systems they have or the kind of product that they're selling? Or just curious if there's something where you're like, well, this is industry, it hasn't been a good fit yet, it might be, or have you not experienced any industries it isn't a good fit?
That's a really great question. I don't know if an industry pops to mind as something that just hasn't been a good fit. I think what we find is even things that aren't possible in Webflow today will have some workaround that our teams will be aware of. I think where we've had trouble is probably in like product catalogs. Like if you have 300,000 different unique items that you need posted, I think that's something that we have really good solutions for, but it is more manual and it feels less of a huge efficiency gain to move that. But that's also why we're investing in delivering our component variables and some of the things in our roadmap. But I think what I've been impressed with is we've had very skeptical people be like, I want to do this, and I know you can't do it, so I'm not even going to bring it up. And we're like, well, give us more information. And we're able to come up with fairly elegant solutions to help customers do stuff that they didn't think was possible. And we have a handful of customers right now that are using Webflow as an app development platform and are actually treating their site more as an extension of their product. And there's a lot of sophistication in that would not be possible if they weren't talking closely with our TAs and our product team. And again, there's no group closer to our product team than our technical architects, and they're the loudest when they hear from customers that you have pain that you can't solve. Thank you so much for your questions, your time, and your participation.
Thanks, everyone.